But like I said, it's Mike Trout and it's Clayton Kershaw, the two guys we talk a lot about because they are truly all-time greats. So I started to think to myself, if I think so highly of Mike Trout, let me run Clayton Kershaw through kind of the same process I ran Mike Trout through. So I started comparing Clayton Kershaw. How does he measure up to other guys that are, you would consider the elite of elite, the best of the best? I'm not even talking about guys who are like a Johan Santana, who had a great run and a great stretch and was elite Cy Young worthy. I'm not talking about Roy Halladay, who was the best pitcher in the game for a 4 or 5 year run. Not talking about when Cliff Lee was setting historic strikeout to walk ratios. I'm talking about truly the best pitchers of all time who've played in the modern era. And specifically, I'm looking more towards 1990 to current days, simply because steroid era impact and the dead ball era. So I thought about this. Clayton Kershaw's ERA is the lowest as far as a full career. Now he's 10 seasons. This is his 10th season, so he's obviously going to get more. But up to this point, if he retired tomorrow, he has the lowest ERA post 1900. And I thought, wow, that's impressive. I thought to myself, he might that is his defining moment or his defining statistic. But then I went and looked more into his stats, and I thought, wow, Clayton Kershaw's had 10 years in the big leagues, and he's only reached 200 innings 5 times. So half of the seasons, he's not getting to 200 innings. And some people are going to say, well, the game's different. They don't go as deep. Well, not when you're Clayton Kershaw. When you're Clayton Kershaw, you're almost expected to go 7 innings, 2 runs or less. And you do that, you should be getting it to 220, 230 innings a year. He's barely touching 200. And we could even give him, he had a 6th season of it because he has a season where he's got 198 and 2/3 innings. So you could say that's a 200 inning season. If you want to be compared, though, or you want to be in the conversation for the greatest of all time, you've got to have the innings to back it up. Because when you start looking at the other guys who make the case for this, and I've got 3 in particular that I'm going to put through this ringer, which is Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, and Roger Clemens. And yes, I'm putting Clemens in there because as far as I'm concerned, he should be in the Hall of Fame because out of all the PED speculation, he's the only guy who took his "no, I did not take PEDs" up to the Supreme Court, and they found him not guilty. So I'm sorry. If you run your process that far, you should get in, unlike a Barry Bonds who just denies it and refuses to go to court over it. Barry, I'm sorry. You did roids. You juiced up. Roger Clemens, I got your back because you took it to the Supreme Court. So all power to you. With Kershaw, though, so Pedro Martinez, I think, is the closest comparison, right? And let's take a 10-year stretch during, it's kind of hard to say a prime for Pedro Martinez because he was great for so long, but we're going to take a 10-year prime. During those 10 years, Pedro Martinez had 7 seasons of 200-plus innings. That's 2 more than Kershaw. And Pedro also, we could give Pedro an 8th because he had a season where he got to 199 innings. That's almost a 2,000 innings in a 10-year stretch. And for Pedro, it was over 2,000 innings because he has seasons of 240, 250, 230-plus innings pitched, whereas Kershaw has 1 year of 232, and the other years he has of 200 innings are like 204, 205. They're just barely getting into the 200s. During those 10-year stretches, Kershaw's ERA was 2.34. Pedro's is 2.33. And I'm not even going to stress that really much because that's basically a wash. They were both dominant as hell, both great pitchers. But the innings have to be taken into consideration. If you're out there for 8 innings, 9 innings, complete games, and you're only giving up 1 or 2 runs, you are as they say, you're an ace, you are a stopper. Like you get on the mound, it's over. Because with Kershaw, you can kind of sit there and go, okay, if we just kind of, fling our bats and struggle for 6 or 7 innings, he might strike out 14, 15 guys and make us look real stupid, but he's gone after 6, 7 innings. And then we've got relievers to look after, which I don't care how great Kenley Jansen is. People would take Kenley Jansen 100 out of 100 times before they take on Clayton Kershaw. So when you get a guy like Pedro who's out there throwing all these innings, completing all these games, it is a much more impactful and dominant pitcher. So Kershaw, I have 4th on my list of all times, whereas Pedro, I've got 3rd. And I think for those two, they're even farther away. Like I said, I put Kershaw basically the same ringers I'd put Mike Trout, which is looking at all these different stats. But innings, for me, was the big one. Kershaw just doesn't stack up at all. Because Pedro pitched him in innings, and Pedro's a much smaller guy. Obviously, Pedro's the anomaly of all anomalies as far as pitching goes. Being a under 6-foot pitcher throwing 95+ miles an hour just doesn't happen. And then, this is where it got good. When you take into consideration Randy Johnson and Roger Clemens, who 1A, 1B, they could both make a case for being the best pitcher. If you're someone who thinks Roger Clemens is a steroid guy, then you got to put Randy Johnson at the top. If you're someone like me who doesn't, then you got to put Clemens at the top. Clemens has a 10-year stretch. Forget a 10-year stretch with either of them. Clemens has 9 years of pitching 240+ innings with a less than a 2.5 ERA in the American League during the steroid era. Put that into context. And Randy Johnson at 35, right? Kershaw is 30 turning 31. Has trouble getting 200 innings. Randy Johnson at 35 put up a 2.34 ERA with 271 innings. That means, and in 35 starts to get 207 innings, they only knocked him out of a game 6 times. When Randy Johnson started the game, you were stuck staring at his 6'10", throw 100 miles an hour, killing bird's ass for the entirety of the game. And it never got easier. And to finish my note, why innings are such an important thing is look at the 2 guys who basically held the mantle pre-Kershaw becoming this guy. It was Roy Halladay and Justin Verlander. And what did they do? They threw complete games. They gave you innings. They would both get you 240, 250 innings. They do it for as long as these other guys? No, which is why they are elite level pitchers, borderline Hall of Fame candidates, but they're not the greatest pitchers of all time. So to finish off my point, I got Kershaw 4 just because he is rate-wise in terms of how good his innings are. He is as good as all of them. But when you're pitching 50, 60, sometimes 100 less innings. Like I said, 130 innings for Kershaw at 29, 271 for Randy Johnson at 35. Kershaw, you got to be a little lower on the list, bro. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Also, don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. If you'd like to see more videos, click right here on my chest. And I will see you guys next time.